cover disorders of circulation. The circulatory system is our body's transport system of blood and lymphatic fluids. For the purpose of first aid, we're going to concentrate on the transport of blood throughout the body, known as the cardiovascular system. The heart is a hollow muscular pump about the size of your fist, which sits in the centre of your chest slightly to the left. It has two pairs of chambers. One of those chambers will take in oxygen from the air that we breathe in from the lungs, and it will distribute it around the body, giving the tissues of the body the nutrients and the oxygen that we need. It will then travel back to the other chamber of the heart, which will now be deoxygenated blood. That deoxygenated blood will then filter back to the lungs to start that process again. The blood is made up from four components. The first is plasma, which is the fluid component of the blood, which is 90% water. You then have your platelets, which act as a blood clotting. You have your red blood cells, which carry oxygen via the haemoglobin, and you have your white blood cells, which manufacture antibodies and protect you from infection. Our blood is made up of plasma, which is the fluid component of the blood, which is made of 90% water. Platelets, which help to clot the blood. Red blood cells, which carry oxygen via the haemoglobin. And white blood cells that manufacture antibodies and help to fight against infection. The blood vessels in our body are arteries, veins, and capillaries. Arteries carry oxygenated blood from the heart to the body, with the exception of the pulmonary artery, which carries deoxygenated blood from the heart to the lungs. Veins take deoxygenated blood back to the heart. Capillaries are much smaller vessels that form a link between the arteries, veins, and the tissues of the body that allow the transfer of oxygen and nutrients and get rid of any waste product. I'm now going to talk to you about hypovolemic shock, so a failure of the circulatory system. This could be due to low blood pressure, a lack of oxygen in the body, a loss of blood. It could be due to a burn or a spinal injury, or perhaps even poisoning. This is by no means a definitive list, but this is some of the reasons why your body could go into hypovolemic shock. When your body's in hypovolemic shock, it is not receiving enough oxygen around to the tissues of the body. To recognise hypovolemic shock, the signs and symptoms are the casualty would be pale, cold and clammy, where the blood is drawing away from the extremities to protect the vital organs. Their pulse would be rapid but weak. Their breathing would be rapid and shallow. And they may be saying that they feel thirsty and lightheaded. To treat for shock, as we've said, try and treat the cause if you can. Call an ambulance as quickly as possible, as this is a life-threatening condition. If the casualty is conscious, lay them down and raise their legs slightly so they're above the heart. Keep them calm, reassure them, and be ready to start your basic life support. I'm now going to talk to you about fainting. Fainting is a sudden and usually brief loss of responsiveness due to a lack of oxygen in the brain. If somebody is feeling faint, we can aid them to the floor and we can raise their legs in order to get the blood back to the brain. Hopefully they will start to feel better quite quickly. Whilst they are feeling unwell, we can ask them questions to try and find out why they're feeling faint. If it's related to dehydration or lack of sugar, then we can rectify this by giving them some fluid and something sugary to drink. Once they start to feel a little bit better and they can sit up, we might look at giving them something a little bit more substantial to eat. If it's something unrelated to food or them feeling dehydrated, then we may be having to advise them to go and see their GP if they do feel better once they've rested. If somebody has experienced a full faint, we can raise their legs in order to get the blood back to the brain, and hopefully this will improve their condition. If after about 1 to 2 minutes it hasn't improved their condition, then we need to carry out our basic life support. So check in for breathing. If they're not breathing, then we're going to start CPR. If they are breathing, then we can place them in the recovery position. We would then call an ambulance.